That video is amazing, but it also gives me a moment of sadness because white supremacy has really convinced us
TV3, and people are still coming under our posts talking about our hair.
You should be familiar with this by now if you are indeed a black woman like myself. If you are not, though, you should be aware of the versatility of black hair. Black hair comes in many different shapes and styles, different textures, curl patterns, including locks, dreads, afros, and even twists. We have even a numerical system for categorizing our hair, though it has been debated if this is truly accurate for black women's hair. Our hair is so unique. However, with loving our hair in its natural state came with a lot of pain for centuries. For generations, such hairstyles have been linked back to slavery, history. And even black hairstyles were banned in places like the workplace, in schools, and in the military. Today, we are going to be discussing the cultural pain of black women's hair, and why the next time you see a black woman wearing her hair loud and proud, you should compliment her. In the very beginning, unfortunately, to fit into society, black women started off using chemical relaxers, all so they can fit into mainstream white society. The first relaxer was actually created by an African-American man named Garrett A. Morgan, who invented the relaxer as a way to straighten his own hair. This began to grow popular during the civil rights movement. Straightening one's hair was seen as a way to look more presentable and conform to Eurocentric beauty standards as they were prevalent around that time. It wasn't until much later in the 1970s and 1980s where the hair relaxer popularity declined over time. And this was in part due to the fact that more black women began to embrace their natural appearance. With this, though, came a lot of damage, in part due to the chemical burns by the relaxer and hair loss further impacting young black girls and black women's self-esteem, including health issues, later leading down to the causes of cancer.
Researchers finding women who use chemical hair straighteners may face a higher risk of developing uterine cancer. While that form of the disease is relatively rare, the study shows people who applied chemical straighteners more than 4 times a year faced a 4%.
Black hair during pre-colonial Africa was used as a symbol of a person's identity. Styles you see today, which are braids, twists, dreadlocks, had a much deeper meaning. It was used to symbolize a person's tribe, social status, and family background. During the transatlantic slave trade, slave owners forcibly transported people from West Africa to colonies in modern-day Brazil. And throughout America, some African women, namely rice farmers, braided rice seeds into their hair as a means for survival of themselves and the culture of their homeland.
Rijst in haar haar gezet en daarna had die mevrouw die haren gevlochten en dan waren die rijstzaadjes erin. En dan ga ik wijzen hoe het gedaan, hoe het was gebeurd. Even ga ik een voorbeeld geven. Hier heb ik rijst. Ik heb hier rijst. En dan zet ik een Marion. Als ik het hier. Je hoeft niet veel te hebben. Als je dat een beetje hebt, blijft het erin. Zo had zij het gedaan.
Ja, waar had ze dat gedaan, Edith? Op het slavenschip, of in Paramaribo, of in Afrika?
Cornrows, another black hairstyle, were used as maps to leave the plantation and home from their captors. Amazing, right? So black hair was a tool used for resistance. However, with this came even more atrocities. Slave owners during this time would shave off black people's hair as a means of erasing their identity, and some slaves were forced to hide their hair throughout the week, only being able to show their hair on Sundays. Due to all of these oppressions, quite obviously, black people over time were led to believe that their hair is bad and that good hair is sleeky, smooth, and straight. There were laws created to keep black women from wearing their hair uncovered. Like in 1786 when New Orleans had their Tignon law. It was at this time where black women created beautiful headscarves of beautiful prints and wrap patterns as a way of countering such laws in place. Remember how I stated that it wasn't until much later in 1970 and 1980 where hair relaxers' popularity declined as more black women began to embrace their natural hair appearance? During the Black Power movement in the 1970s and 80s, the afro rose back to popularity when Angela Davis wore her afro consistently and proudly, and inspired black women all over the country to go natural and to cut off their relaxed hair. Self-love and Afrocentrism were being preached by black leaders all over. It was a moment of reclaiming what was stripped of black women. Still, though, during that time, natural hair faced a lot of backlash, still being labeled as unprofessional. It would be many years later before laws were passed to prevent people from discriminating against black women and men for their hair. Still, this movement made an impact on the community. Black hair today still faces threats as some schools still use suspensions and expulsion to discipline black students for hair that does not follow school rules. And in the workplace, even more discrimination. A recent study done by Michigan State University found that African American women face the higher instances of hair discrimination. They are more likely to be sent home from the workplace because of their hair. And with this, there are some facts. Black women's hair is 2.5 times more likely to be perceived as unprofessional. More than half of black women surveyed felt like they had to wear their hair straight in a job interview to be successful. 2/3 reported that they changed their hair for a job interview. 1/5 of black women surveyed between the age of 25 and 34 had been sent home from work because of their hair. 1/4 of black women surveyed believed they were denied a job because of their hair. And even with everything that I just said, we still face even more issues at an even grander scale within the black community, which is texturism. Texturism is the discrimination faced by individuals with kinkier, tighter curled hair textures. This is where black women with 4C hair experience prejudice. In 2009, Chris Rock actually made a documentary called Good Hair, where he explored the importance of hair within the black community. Even in hair salons today, 4C hair may be charged more, in part due to it being considered harder to work with. When analyzing the natural hair community, hair types like 4C representation is lacking. 4C hair does not receive the same amount of recognition or praise and appreciation as other hair types. Black women have came a very long way when it comes to embracing their natural hair in its natural state, and we should thank historical figures like Madam C.J. Walker for such progress, but we still have a lot of work to do. The cultural pain of black women's hair is a burden that many black women and black girls still carry today. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and check out my other video essays. And stay tuned for one of my upcoming videos where I go over the many different types of hairstyles and their true origin. Thank you so much for watching. Bye guys. Come on that black woman.